Bismillahi walhamdulillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We welcome you back to the second episode, inshallah ta'ala, of what we have planned for you with regards to the blessings of the Prophet ﷺ sunnah as fruits for this Ramadan. And with that, we reach the second hadith, which is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah Azza wa Jal be pleased with him and bless him to be pleased with paradise. Said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ithnatani fi nasi huma bihim kufr." That there are two qualities, two traits, two attributes with regards to the people that they are considered kufr. And we'll go into detail as to what kufr means in this hadith. The first thing that he mentioned is al-ta'nu fil ansab wa niyahatu ala al-mayyit. The first thing he said was speaking about people's family, their lineage, their heritage, their tribe, and so on and so forth. But of course, in a negative manner. And the second thing that he said was an-niyahatu ala al-mayyit, crying out and for the dead. And so, with regards to this hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions these two qualities, and he then also gives them the adjective as being from the qualities of kufr, from the attributes and traits of kufr. What is it, first of all, that we're talking about? Al-ta'nu fil ansab. This is something that was a common trait with regards to the Arabs of pre-Islam, where when they wanted to bring down a particular person, they didn't just attack that person and slander them, but they also went a step further and basically attacked the whole tribe of that person, the family and tribe. So that this way, not only is that particular individual belittled and disgraced, but they would also seek to disgrace and humiliate the whole of that family and tribe. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ, he is bringing back that attention to recognize, to have the believers recognize that this was a trait of the disbelievers. And so for Muslims to help us to recognize that this should never be a trait that we the believers have. Secondly, he attributes that to a time, pre-Islam, the time of Jahiliyyah, of ignorance. And so again, helping the believers to recognize that that is something that is not befitting after Islam has come to the people. That this attribute of slandering people and their family and tribe, that this should have no room in the life of the believer, especially as we're talking about in Islam and in the life of the person who bears witness and testifies to Allah Azza wa Jall's oneness and to His Messenger whom He sent with the message of Islam. The second quality of what the Prophet ﷺ also attributed to being of kufr is crying and wailing, specifically actually wailing with regards to a dead person. And this was also one of the attributes that was a typical characteristic with regards to a death, a funeral. Specifically with regards to the women, where the women would manifest and demonstrate their sadness or their sorrow or their loss by over-exaggerating their screaming and their wailing with regards to that person. And on top of that, some of the other things that they would do is that they would also become physically abusive towards themselves, where they would beat themselves and tear open their clothing and pull their hair and do all sorts of awful things and throw dirt on themselves, where Islamically that's also completely prohibited, that these acts are both haram. To wail, it is not permissible. Crying in the sense of a person shedding tears, and with that also having something of a murmur of a cry, that's something that's uncontrollable, something that's natural, that's undeniable. But we're talking about the exaggeration of it, where the person starts wailing and crying and freaking out and flipping out and so on and so forth. This is what we're referring to, what the Prophet ﷺ is referring to as also being something prohibited, and it is from the acts of kufr. With regards to it being kufr, one of the things that's also mentioned is that the act itself is from the acts of the disbelievers. That it is from the acts and from the deeds and from the behavior of the disbelievers. And naturally as believers, we should be very different from the disbelievers in the way that they act. And naturally also from the way that they speak and from the way that they behave. So if these two things of slandering and abusing the family and tribe of a person, and also with regards to wailing and screaming out and all of that stuff with regards to a death, if these are from the acts and from the behavior of the disbelievers, then the believer should be from the furthest of people, dealing with these issues or having these behaving this way. Another thing is mentioned that these are from the acts that are considered to be kufru ni'mah, that this is to be ungrateful to Allah's blessings, meaning that a person who behaves this way, they are behaving ungratefully to Allah. They are behaving in a way to Allah that shows they are not appreciative of Islam and the blessings of Islam that came to teach us the correct way to speak and to behave and to act, such that we would not be from the people who are going to in any way go beyond the limits that Allah has set. And so with regards to this, it's important for us to understand that we should not in any way allow shaitan to cause us to do these things. In addition to this, some of the other things that's important for us to take a look at is that with regards to husbands and wives or family members within the same family, it is not permissible to allow shaitan to cause you that when you do get upset, that you speak bad about your spouse's parents and about his family. This is something that's just as evil and is just as prohibited. It is just as blameworthy and awful. It is not at all allowed, and this is something that we should pay attention to. And with regards to the wailing, the niyaha, another point that's been mentioned with regards to it is that eulogizing is also included. And for eulogizing, that means where the person is actually praised and spoken well of. And this is an act that unfortunately I've come to see that even with regards to Muslims, that is becoming more common, because unfortunately we will follow the ways of the disbelievers, where we're going to follow in their footsteps, and even in the issues of funerals, we are following them, such that when somebody dies, we're having pictures of the person posted and a showing of the person, and basically the wake of what the non-Muslims have. And in that, we then stand up and have different people speak nicely about the person and recount different stories and so on and so forth. This is also one of the things that's included that we should also be aware of to not perform it. And so as we look at this hadith, some of the different points and rulings and benefits that we should learn and derive from it are that, number one, there is always going to be a continuation from Muslims within this ummah that are going to fall short of Islam's teachings, and they are going to have within them character traits that are from the traits of the disbelievers. And this does not in any way make it permissible, but this is to tell us the unfortunate reality of what we're about, and it should only cause us to become a bit more vigilant so that we are not from that statistic. Secondly, to recognize that there are different ways to interpret kufr, especially as regards to this hadith, in that the different things that the two things that were mentioned is that they are from the behavior and actions of the disbelievers, and they are from the common traits of the time of disbelief prior to the time of Islam, that from the time of ignorance, and also with regards to it being ungratefulness to Allah the Exalted for what He has blessed us with of Islam, such that we should in no way behave in these two fashions and forms. The other point to benefit from is to recognize that when we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, that when we become Muslims and we bear witness, testify to the Shahada, that we need to surrender ourselves to what the Shahada means we need to obey Allah and His Messenger. And part of obeying Allah and His Messenger means that with regards to the things that are prohibited, and those things are prohibited also by the description that's given to them, as in this case, these being of acts of kufr, that we should be from the furthest of people to be engaged in them and to in any way accept them and acknowledge them. And so with this, we hope and pray that Allah the Exalted blesses us to be from those who in no way get involved in anything of slandering and speaking falsehood about each other and about each other's families and lineage and origins and things of that sort, especially with our ethnic community that we have here, but also that we beware with regards to janazas, to funerals, that we do not in any way seek to yell out and to scream and to wail and anything else of the different things that were mentioned. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to answer this for us. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum.